Welcome back, fantasy managers. This is Devo1099 or Tom with fantasy football backers. I have Martin, Wowcow77 on Twitter. How you doing, Martin?
Good. Excited. Ready for Everton to beat Arsenal.
We all have dreams. We'll get to that one. All the amazing Everton plays that you probably have written down. Did you mess around with Champions League this week at all?
I did a little. Better on Tuesday than Wednesday. Yeah, it was probably just made a little profit, but that's good just to have a dabble.
Yeah, I ended up doing well on DraftKings and I did okay on Mondogoal, but I got slaughtered in Europa League today, which is not a statement I expected to make a year ago before I ever played Europa, but here we are. So anyhow, let's move on to the Premier League, which we actually know the teams that we are selecting players from. The opening matches are all 3 p.m. matches, so there's no early match. And we are starting with Villa hosting Swansea. Villa has no attack to speak of. Swansea is in a bit of a free fall. Are there going to be goals here? Are you confident saying there won't be goals? What are you thinking here?
Probably one goal maximum, I'd say. I'd rather take the defenses here than any offensive players. If you're going to take an offensive player, probably from Swansea, but yeah, I'll probably try and avoid this game if I could.
Yeah, the Swansea players, for the most part, the attackers are still sort of priced as if they are a capable attack, and they haven't been in several weeks. So, paying, I think, over 11 million or something for IU. Gomes is still over 9, I believe. 8.9, excuse me. Yeah, I even at Villa, I'm just, I think you're right. I think it's going to be a pretty quiet game. There's nobody to trust on Villa on either direction. I think you'd be taking a pretty serious punt to say that they're going to be able to shut Swansea out. Though possible, there's probably better options. Fabianski is only 6.8 million, so I think if you're going to take one player from this game, he's probably the best play. Particularly if you are an Everton supporter and you're pretty convinced that they're going to score on Arsenal, because I think Cech would be considered the top keeper play otherwise. So let's try to keep this video a little bit shorter rather than spending time on a game that we think might max out at 1 goal. So let's move on here to Leicester against Palace, which we won't be touching the defenses in because I think there's going to be a good bit of goals here. Palace tends to be a little stingier at home, so away, I don't think their defense is really much to speak of. Leicester has no problems playing in a track meet. They do have problems playing from ahead. They are probably the best team in the Premier League when they're losing by a goal or two. Which players in particular are you looking at for these teams' attacks?
Gotta keep riding Vardy, I would say. I mean, when is it going to end? Still reasonable. 9.5 is reasonable considering his track record. I don't know whether Mahrez plays or not is questionable. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely. So I guess he may have picked up a knock, but I think that was over internationals, and he didn't start the match before that. So there's something going on, and it seems like maybe this happens a lot with him. I don't know if it's an attitude thing, or if he doesn't play defense, or what it is. He manages to tick off managers. I mean, he was the most informed player in the Premier League, and then he just got benched out of the blue. So even if he starts, can you really trust him to go 90, or is he going to irritate Ranieri again? I mean, I think if he starts in a matchup like this, he's probably worth considering, but there's risk there. Vardy, like you said, I think he'll be so highly owned. It's a good match. There's not great options at forward on the Saturday slate, particularly with the question marks for Arsenal, and they're the late game. I think people are going to pencil in Vardy pretty quickly. He's in form. He's not overly expensive, and he's got a good matchup. There's not a whole lot else to worry about. What about Palace?
Kabay is my go-to. So he's still at a good price, 7 million. He seems to be scoring a few goals now as well.
Well, he's on penalty duty, right? So I think he's had at least 2 goals on penalties recently.
And free kicks. So question forward, I guess there's talk that maybe Campbell could start. I don't know whether that would be worth a punt or not. It's usually just pretty much the standard midfielders for Palace, as always.
Yeah.
Bolassi's real cheap, 5.9.
He is. He's gotten exceptionally cheap. I mean, you look at the fact that Sadio Mane is 13 million and he's 5.9. I think he's maybe a slightly worse version of Mane, but certainly not half price. He had 20 fantasy points, I think, 2 games ago. So I like Bolasie, especially in a wide open game like Leicester is sure to offer. You said Campbell might start up top. He's 5.1 million. I wonder if why take Bamford on loan when first he can't beat out Murray, then they send Murray away. Then they want to play Connor Wickham over him. Wickham gets hurt, so then they play Gale. Gale gets a red card, and now they're going to play Campbell. Can he really be that far down the pecking order? But like you say, the rumors are that Campbell's going to draw the start, which it just makes me wonder, is Bamford hurt? Was his season in championship last year just a total mirage? The answer to that is we don't really care because he's 8.6 million, and there's a lot of question marks. If they're talking about starting Campbell, then certainly they would talk about putting him on at 60, 70 minutes, which means Bamford's 8.6 million and may not play 90. Do you have any inclination as to what's going on with Bamford? Why a young talent would be wasting away on the pine here?
Right. Maybe it wasn't the manager. It wasn't the manager that decided to sign him, and he just doesn't fancy him as a player. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, that's the easiest explanation, I guess, and those are usually the right ones. So just confusing because I think after the signing, there was just so much talk about how excited people were to see him play. This, he's in the Chelsea system. He's going to be a star, and then we've just gotten nothing out of him, and not because he's not performed well. He just hasn't got an opportunity. It's very strange. But Punchin I also like at 7.4 million. My old friend Jeff Schlupp is 6.2 million. He's been playing a little bit better lately. Those are more GPP type plays. I think Punchin probably lost most of his free kick duty to Kabay, so that takes a lot of his value out. But he still hangs around and he can still score. So, all right, let's move to the third game of this Saturday's slate, which is Norwich hosting West Brom. Norwich just got wiped out by Newcastle. They were exposed finally. They had managed to keep a decent defensive record despite all of the metrics suggesting that they were in serious trouble. I know you've pointed out several times that Ruddy is not really up to par as a keeper, and that came crashing down. Some of those goals, any keeper would have allowed, but I don't think his positioning was particularly good, and I think that they're they're pretty open at the back, which is not a good sign. But this is West Brom away from home, which is not a very scary proposition. So I've got my eye on a couple Norwich attackers. I'm not totally opposed to using Ruddy. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use Ruddy. Be kind of going against what I've been saying all along then. They may try and tighten up a little bit, I guess, after the shellacking that they received. And I guess West Brom are not really very good away from home, so I mean, probably going to be a little not as high scoring anyway. Still would rather probably take the attacking players from Norwich, like McCartney, 6.6. It looks 10 times better than Jerome does in the team, which isn't saying much, but still a reasonable price for a goal threat. Redmond's pretty expensive, I'd say, but he seems to always produce something. So I could probably risk him in a GPP at 10.9. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd take any other players. Brady, 6.7, but he doesn't really produce assists or
so I'm a big Brady fan. Part of that is playing on DraftKings where they count crosses, whether they're successful or not. So he's a lot more on your radar there. But he was playing left back for a while there, and then he moved up. And the first match that he played up, he scored a goal. And if you watched last match against Newcastle, I think he hit the post on a nice shot from deep. So he's not afraid to shoot. If 6.7, if you think they have a chance at a clean sheet, he's got an assist chance if you like Mbokani, because he's going to be sending a lot of crosses in. So I don't think he's a terrible play at 6.7 by any means. Getting back to Ruddy, when you give up 6 goals, you drop in price, and he is now 4.8 million. I don't know. I haven't really tried to iron out my teams this week. I don't know for sure that you need to go as low as 4.8. You might be able to just throw in an 8 million keeper, like Czech, or Butland's 9.3, which is pretty high. But, then you can get Payet, Cazorla, Ozil. That's a possibility. Maybe Theo Walcott, if you want to fit that in. So that's what you get if you take Ruddy and you think Arsenal is going to score 3 or 4 goals. But I don't know that you have to do it. And after watching a guy give up 6 goals, there's a good chance you're going to be feeling pretty silly about taking him the next match if things don't go well. So I think I'm with you. Like, I don't know that Mbokani really will crack my final 3 forwards, but he's on the radar. Redmond, maybe a little expensive, but has been producing, and Brady, and then Ruddy. West Brom, the only guy I wrote down is McLean, who got himself in a little bit of a controversy with his celebrating, but he's only 4.1 million and seems to be getting more involved. That's another guy, if you just need a total punt that shouldn't hurt you, and maybe able to get more than value if you need the money. Next match, the suddenly resurgent Stoke City against Watford. I know you love Shaqiri, not Shakira. Who else are you looking for in this match?
I like Peters, 7.6 on defense. I like Butland too, because even though he's pricey, he still gets a number of saves, and as well as having a good clean sheet chance. So he's not one like that is going to get a cheap clean sheet. He'll earn his clean sheets. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I still don't really like too much about. I'm not sure that Stoke are going to score a number of goals. I think it'll be like a 1-0 kind of a game. So I'm not really over invested in the forward midfield players for them. More Cameron, Peters, they're like in the sevens. I think there's a pretty good chance that you're going to get clean sheet. So I'd be looking at maybe stacking the goalkeeper and the defense.
Yeah, it sounds like Juve will be back. He lost his mother, which is pretty devastating. And then Walters has a groin problem. So I think if Juve is back in there, I think I would look at him as a possibility. Watford's been pretty solid in defense, but, you know, Juve is cheap. You know, if you want to look at the narrative of him, you know, coming back and dedicating his match to his mom, you know, it might not mean anything, but it might. Shaqiri, Glenn Johnson's been playing all right. He almost scored last week, but he was not actually very close. He had an open shot, I should say. I think I'm with you. That's, you know, two teams that are fine, just kind of, you know, mucking it up a little bit and playing it tight. So I don't think there's a whole lot of fantasy intrigue here. So we will move to the final two games of this first set, and we'll go through Sunday as well, because the way that this week splits up, it's 6 and 4, and that's very nice for daily fantasy purposes. This is really a match that could go any number of directions, which is tough for predictability, but should be fun otherwise. West Ham hosting Chelsea. Chelsea came out of the Ukraine with a draw and feeling pretty good about themselves. They've kept consecutive clean sheets, if you count Villa, and now they're going away, but they're still in London, and it's West Ham, who I know that they continue to win, and I continue to doubt them because their conversion rate is outrageously good. It has to come back to earth. These aren't exceptionally good players that are doing this, or some, you know, system that can't be figured out. So I'm going to continue to personally fade West Ham no matter what they do. However, I also think Chelsea has major problems at the back. So what gives here for you?
I think it's a tough spot for Chelsea travelling back from a long European trip in Ukraine, so I just think they may struggle a little here. Kind of, I still not see Chelsea not fluent. They just seem Hazard just doesn't seem to be himself. Until he gets back to form, they're just going to continue to struggle. I mean, they might like eke out a few wins like last week, but I just think they're going to have trouble against better teams and teams who can punish them. I just have a feeling West Ham may edge this game. I'm with you. West Ham, like, what is it, like the chances that they would have scored 20 goals is like 0.5%. So it's kind of like ridiculous. So it has to end at some time. But I mean, we keep saying that every week, so we'll see when.
Yeah, I'll continue to say it, and if it costs me money, so be it.
Ridiculously, I mean, he's expensive, but I guess he's earning that price at the moment. Unlike, he's still less than Hazard, who isn't earning his price. I'm not really sure how he's 15 million at the moment, based on what I've seen, but.
Yeah. What do you? I mean, do you think that, you know, the convenient loss of Ivanovic, and I think that they've got 2 consecutive clean sheets since he has been out, is that exposing him as a potential culprit, or is that more of the competition that they've run into in the past 2 matches? I mean, I think it's easy to say that he was not playing very well. He was getting burned pretty frequently. You know, there were more problems than that, but Is this something where his loss is actually Chelsea's gain, plus just they're kind of pulling themselves together at the same time? Like, Mourinho is saying he thinks they're fine, that they turned the corner. I mean, do you buy it? We've been down on Chelsea for a while now. Are we going to have to climb back on? The bookies sure are.
Well, I don't think they've really ever been off, have they? They've been like favoured all along. Maybe a little of both, but there's problems with Chelsea because you saw if Costa's out, they have nothing up front. Falcao has been like a total bust since he's got that injury. He's like a shadow of the player he was, and Remy just doesn't seem to be able to fill the role of a forward at a big club. So there's problems with Chelsea still.
But he's not out though. He's playing.
No, I'm just saying. But how long is it going to be before he gets himself into trouble? Or that's what I'm saying. I mean,
when does he play Arsenal again?
Right. So he's playing in this game, but I'm saying that you can't be reliant on one forward for the whole season. I mean, who's going to score goals for them apart from Costa?
All right. Well, this isn't a season-long conversation though. So Costa, I think, is probably one of the best players. I know you're reluctant to use him pretty generally, but when I looked through, I thought the very obvious plays were Vardy and Costa, and then depending on budget, and depending on what Wenger says about his starting lineup, is probably going to be your third forward from Arsenal. If you know that Giroud's playing, he's a nice discount. If you know that Theo Walcott's playing, he's expensive, but in a pretty decent matchup. And then Alexis, there's hints that he may be rested here. Did you get any more information on that?
I haven't heard anything else apart from that he was kind of intimating that he could rest him eventually, but he didn't really say when that's going to be, whether it will be this weekend or sometime in the future. So it kind of leaves you in a bit of a predicament for this.
Yeah, especially because it's the later match here. Yeah, I mean, the two sound bites that I heard where he was blaming Wales for Ramsey's injury, which essentially saying that they overworked him, then saying that Alexis had, been playing in Peru for Chile during internationals, come back, played in England, then went and had to play against Bayern, then is now playing another match the same week. So it would be sort of hypocritical for him to go and play Alexis. I'm not saying he won't, but it would be a little bit hypocritical, especially when I think he could definitely play Walcott and Giroud together. They're both in pretty good form. I think Arsenal can win that without them. So one last note on Chelsea before we move on. Willian has been playing fantastic. He scored goals in, I think, 4 straight, then had an assist before Kiev. So I think he's in pretty good form. 10.1 million is probably a little more expensive than he typically would be, but given that Hazard is shaky and generally Chelsea is relying on him more, I think he's actually a pretty solid play. Also, from West Ham, Lanzini, who we've talked about a few times over the weeks, finally had his breakout game when we weren't expecting it. Got a goal and assist last match, and he's still pretty inexpensive at 5.6 million. So, one to keep an eye on if you think Chelsea's defensive struggles will continue, and you think West Ham is potentially for real. So, two things I'm not necessarily sold on, but there is that angle, and that angle could win a GPP. So, all right, let's finish up Saturday's slate. A game near and dear to our hearts, Arsenal at the Emirates hosting Everton. Let's get it out of the way first. Obviously, Arsenal has had struggles over the years with the counter. I think Everton is actually one of the better teams in the league at running an effective counterattack with Lukaku and Barkley, and if Martinez is kind enough to play Deulofeu for us, would you actually take any Everton players in this match?
Risky. Not on a main. I don't think I would in a cash team.
Yeah.
As a GPP, I would maybe risk, but I think there's too many question marks as to how they're going to perform. They're not really that cheap either, the main players. So it's kind of Barkley 12.2 is pretty steep.
Yeah.
They're unlikely to have that much of the ball.
Yeah, I think it would be one of those things where it's a shot in the dark, and if you are playing, the large 3-pound contest on Mondogoal, and you want to guarantee that you have a unique team, and maybe the game gets wide open and it ends up 5-3 or something. I don't know. I don't think it's probably worth it, but if you have 20 teams, maybe you'll put Lukaku on one or Barkley on one. So Arsenal, we're not sure about Alexis. So if Alexis sits, it's possible that he plays. Well, two things are at play. So Ramsey's out first. So if Ramsey's out, theoretically that would be Oxlade-Chamberlain's spot. He's a pretty bad defender. I don't know if Wenger is recognizing that from his play in the first 2 Champions League matches, but Oxlade-Chamberlain would be the natural replacement, or you could move Walcott there, play Giroud up top, keeping Alexis on the left. If Alexis sits too, you almost have to play those unless he dips back into his old favorites with Flamini. What do you think from a formation standpoint?
I think Ox is going to play. 99% sure Oxlade-Chamberlain plays
for Ramsey.
Yes.
So what if Alexis sits?
Then I think he'll play Giroud
up top and Theo on the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you're going to sort that out into a team and be confident that someone's going to play is another question.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Walcott is the most likely to play in all scenarios. So there's going to be one attacker you maybe take for sure. That would probably be him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. He's not cheap. You're not getting a discount on him at all anymore. But he's also been outstanding. Everton are certainly prone to defensive errors at the back, though they've been better this year. I'm not trying to insult your club. Bellerin has looked back to his normal self. He looked really good against Bayern. And then Monreal has been good all year, but he's 10.3 million, which is crazy expensive for a defender. So, all right. That kind of settles Saturday. I wouldn't venture to say I have a great handle on this, but if off the top of my head, I would probably do something like Walcott, Vardy, Costa, Payet, either Cazorla or Ozil, maybe Willian, maybe Brady, maybe Blassie. Bellerin I like. Hutton for Aston Villa we didn't mention. I think he's sending in a lot of crosses and should start. Olsen and Whitaker for Norwich. And then I think I probably ran out of money, but if not, I would play Czech and then either Fabianski or Ruddy personally. So Yeah, I haven't done the math on that. I think it's got to be pretty close because there's no 20 million guys, and I have a fair amount of guys under. The average for Mondogoal, I guess, is 9.1 million for 100 million for 11 spots. So I think I might fit that team in. We'll see. All right. So Sunday, if Saturday is confusing, Sunday is a Rubik's Cube because there's really no clear team to take for their defense. And roughly all the teams are sort of in the same neighborhood for projected goals. We've got a huge Manchester derby. We've got Bournemouth and Tottenham, which could open up pretty easily. Sunderland, Newcastle, and then Liverpool, Southampton. After Liverpool just really struggled with a man advantage here in Europa today. So starting at the top, Sunderland and Newcastle. Big Sam manning Sunderland here against his rivals. Lenz is back, 6.6 million playing forward. I don't like much on Sunderland. Then you've got Newcastle coming off 6 goals. Which Newcastle players would you consider?
Oh, Mitrovic is ridiculously priced at 4.1. I mean, I guess it's a little risky with his temperament, but I mean, he doesn't really need to do much to get value.
Right.
You put in pretty much whatever you want if you use him. I guess Wijnaldum, I don't know what he was. I'm guessing he must have gone up a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
10.9 this week. So, but I mean, he had some pedigree earlier in the season as well. So,
no, he's not a bad player. The thing with him that he's very fast. He gets in good position. So if they're on a break, which they very well could be against Sunderland, he could do something. The problem for me with him is I don't think he's a very structured player. He came from Eredivisie, playing for PSV, which is pretty wide open soccer. I think most of his goals are on headers, and he has a really low floor. He had, I think, what did he have? 3 headers and one shot from distance, which was a really nice curler. And then, he had 2 goals in the lead up, one for Netherlands and one against Chelsea. But I have no interest in paying, well, not only paying that price, but also he's going to be popular. And, I'm taking a big stance against him. And then when you start looking at who your other midfielders would be, you're going to look at Liverpool probably. You could look at Mane and Tadic. Maybe Eriksen's in great form. Lamela, Kevin De Bruyne. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I don't know. Wijnaldum, you can probably play him if you want to. He pretty much has to score to get value, though, from looking at his game log. He's not a passer. He has 1 assist on the season, I believe. But I like Sissoko, too. He looked a little bit more focused last match. I think he, at half of Wijnaldum's price, might be a better option. But and then Daryl Janmaat, still fairly cheap from his red card several weeks ago. So he's 6.2 million. I think somebody you could put at defense and not feel too crazy about. But would you use any Sunderland players or no?
If Lenz was midfield, I might have used him, but not as a forward. That's probably the only player I would have used.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the early game. I think everything will everything lock before the rest. So that's the early match. So on Mondogoal, without late swap, those are the only lineups we're going to have are Newcastle and Sunderland. So I have to be somewhat careful with the other three matches. Tottenham played today. Liverpool played today. I don't recall hearing about any major injuries there. Did you see anything today?
No, I didn't hear anything about.
Nothing new, at least. But I mean, it makes it impossible to risk Sturridge. He's considered, according to our friend Ben Dinnery, 75% to play. Unless you get some sort of confirmation beforehand on Sunday, you can't risk him. Benteke was available today but didn't play, and then Origi had an assist. So that just and that's one of the better options is Liverpool's attack potentially. Klopp's first Premier League home game, but without any clarity on who's starting, that becomes pretty risky. But we're on Bournemouth Tottenham here. Bournemouth is they've been very, very unlucky with injuries. Even with Glenn Murray coming in and scoring goals because that's apparently all he's capable of doing. As a positive thing, he scores no matter what, no matter how much somebody wants to replace him or is forced to use him because of an injury. He just scores goals, which is pretty impressive. I think this game could get fairly open. With Tottenham's injuries now, I think Kane will probably play. He was rested today, I think with an ankle injury. But are you looking at the Spurs or the Cherries here, and who in particular?
Spurs. I'd take Eriksen. Seems pretty low for the way he's playing. 8.7. I mean, I guess the way it's set up, Kane has got to be one of the better options because he's one that you're likely to know he's going to play to start, and he's going to get chances. But it seems to be we're playing the same record every week, but he's going to break out. He's going to produce his England form, but it's just not happening yet.
Yeah. Bournemouth, their style of defense is to really push you into the sidelines. So, he may have some opportunities just by being in position. Like you said, I like Eriksen. I think Lamela is going to be forced into a 90-minute stint here with Chadley picking up an injury. He's out for, I think, a month or so. So I think, and Son was already out. So I think Lamela is going to be an option here. 7.4 million, I believe. I don't think, or excuse me, 7 million even. But I don't think money is going to be a problem at all on Sunday. I think you'll end up using De Bruyne because you can, and then kind of filling it out around him. So I think Bournemouth-Tottenham is probably the best opportunity for goals. I don't see that being a low-scoring match. I think it's sort of a 1-1 minimum, personally. Though I'm not sure the bookies really agree with me on that. So how about this Manchester derby? United hosting City. Both teams coming off Champions League matches. City with a stunning goal late by De Bruyne. United with a decent draw going into Russia. Certainly good for them to get points out of that match. This is a pretty intriguing match for the top of the Premier League table. If City scores, that could force United into playing a brand of football that they're not accustomed to, but they do have exciting attacking players now. I heard Company may be rested, which certainly is a big knock on Manchester City's defense, as we saw in the previous matches he was out. What are you thinking here?
I think United early and City late, so I think it's going to kind of cancel it out to a draw. I just think United might struggle towards the end with fatigue from a long trip back. And obviously City had home comfort, so they were really not been doing no travel over the last week, so I think that's going to help them. Though they're missing Aguero and Silva, but I don't know. I'm disappointed with Depay. He's not really produced the goods for me so far this year.
For Memphis, yeah. Memphis has been slow. Martial has been great. And for whatever reason, the Mondogoal algorithm is just not catching up. He's still 5.5 million, which is pretty mind-boggling. He's had the equalizer in Moscow. He's young, so while I think that your point about travel, to and from Russia is certainly something to keep an eye on. He's so young that may not matter. A guy like Rooney, getting up there in age, may feel the effects a little bit more. Do you like Sterling or Bonnie in this match?
To a degree. I'm not sure it might. I'm not sure I'd use them cash. GPP, I would use them probably. There's probably three I like better than either of them, as they're both listed as forwards. I'm not sure Boney's going to get as many chances, and then I'm not sure how good he's. I mean, without having clear chances, I'm not really sure what he's going to give you in this game. I guess Sterling can produce himself a little more, but maybe it's going to be a case of after the Lord Mayor's show, after last week's hat-trick, so I want to see a little more consistency from him before I feel comfortable using him as a cash player.
Yeah, I think that the way that this slate of 4 matches is going to shake out, it's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult to spend the money, I think, first of all. If you take De Bruyne, that's certainly one big chunk out of your budget. And I have to figure, given the uncertainty around the rest of the options, he's going to be pretty widely owned. Not a great matchup necessarily, but just with the importance that he is to that club without Silva and Aguero, 16 million is getting on the high side, but probably still workable. We'll get to the Liverpool team here in a second, but yeah, like striker is particularly when we're only going to have one lineup. We haven't dealt with that really here much with Mondogoal because they've moved the Saturday slate back to the 3 p.m. start, so you didn't have to worry where you were just getting the lunchtime game and then not having lineups or anything else. Well, you're only going to get one set of lineups for one of the 4 games on Sunday, and there are question marks. So if you want to go with Mitrovic to save money and De Bruyne, then you're going to have to find 2 more forwards that not only you like their matchup, but you're confident they start, which, like you said, Kane, and then it could be Sterling. It could be Bonnie. It could be Benteke if we get more clarity on him. So I think you're going to have somebody you're not confident in, whether it's you're not confident in them starting, you're not confident in them scoring, and neither of those are particularly fun instances. But do you have an opinion on? So you think it's going to end up in a draw in Manchester?
Yes, a draw.
1-1 or 2-2?
1-1.
All right. All right. So the late match on Sunday, our last match of the week, Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp coming to play his first home Premier League match at Anfield. Very disappointing result today. I think he's okay with it. They just couldn't convert, and I didn't watch the match. I'm guessing that Ruben Kazan just kind of parked the bus after they had gone up 1-0, and then one of their guys got a second yellow, so they were a man down for I think around 55, 60 minutes, something like that. And Liverpool, they got the equalizer, but couldn't put another one in. Southampton's been playing pretty well. I think Southampton's been a feeder club to Liverpool, so there's certainly a few Liverpool players that came from Southampton, like Lallana, Klein. So Klein and Moreno are playing fullbacks. I think they're decent options. Mignolet in net. Lallana's been playing a little bit better, not really in the Premier League, but in some of his other matches, he's done all right. And then it's a question of who plays up top. Have you heard anything more on Benteke?
I haven't heard anything apart from what.
I thought that I saw that he was available to play today. Don't believe he got in. Origi started. I know Sturridge is close. You can't imagine that Klopp wants to go into a home match that should be fairly difficult with Origi. Not that he's terrible. Okay, so Benteke got in today. I didn't realize that. So he came on at 63 and finished up. Firmino actually played the last 16 minutes as well. So I gotta guess that Benteke is going to be starting, and maybe we'll get more from Klopp on that in the press conferences. And if that's the case, even though he's struggled a bit, I think that just knowing that he's going to play and he'll be near the goal, I would certainly consider him. Do you like any other plays, or are there any of those in particular that you like? And what about Southampton?
I don't like any Liverpool players.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. For your daily fantasy purposes.
Coutinho, 10.5. I'd probably throw him in somewhere. Yeah, it's probably the only one that I would really take from Liverpool without knowing for sure.
What if I were to tell you that Alberto Moreno is leading the Premier League defenders in chances created over the last 4 weeks?
Yeah, but they're still not scoring any goals, so it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, we can't.
Getting points for crosses, it's like.
Sure, but he's drawn 7 fouls in 4 weeks.
It's okay.
15 chances created in 4 weeks. Next highest is 8.
I mean, I guess In this slate, it's fine.
That's not nothing. I mean, touches in the final third, he's first. These are all numbers that if you're looking to predict future performance, these are numbers that you want to look at. And he's the runaway, and I don't think he's getting any credit for that because, like you said, they're not scoring. I don't think it's his fault that they're not converting. So if he's going to keep sending in crosses, and I think we also would be, it's important to look at what he's done under Klopp in the last 2 matches as well. But I think that there aren't a lot of good defender options, so I will 100% be using Moreno. So his first match with Klopp, he had 4 chances created, only 21 successful passes is not great, but I think he's worth a shot. What keeper would you use for Sunday?
Lloris.
I've got Mignolet. Elliott is only 4.9 million. Stecklenburg's only 4.9 million. Elliott obviously has a much better matchup with Sunderland. Lloris, if you're down on Bournemouth, is 7.6. I don't think I want a keeper in Manchester, and they're the most expensive. And then Mignolet is 7.2.
Probably Lloris or Mignolet would be the 2 that I would use. Probably edge to Mignolet as he's home. But Southampton have shown that they can score goals, so I'm just not so sure Bournemouth are going to score more than 1 goal. Whereas I could see Southampton scoring more than 1 goal. That would be my only question.
Cool. Sorry, my audio was shaky there. All right. So I think this will be a good week because we get basically 2 full days of daily fantasy rather than trying to, squeeze a 2-match slate on Sunday or doing a Sunday Monday slate. So some pretty intriguing stuff. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more clarity on the question marks that we have. But I think we'll wrap this up. Martin, thanks for joining us. Good insight as always. Thanks for the article. I hope everybody out there is reading Martin's game-by-game breakdowns. They're they've got some good stats as well as some good analysis. A really good primer to get your week started and get you thinking about what direction you want to go. Hopefully our discussion helps further that along, and then trust your gut and trust the form that players are in and what you decide is what is going to drive. Because I've seen everything. I've seen people win that go strictly off matchups, people win that go strictly off of price, people win that go strictly off of form or some combination therein, or some players that just have 40 teams and are bound to find the right combination somewhere. So, Martin, good luck with your matches this week. And thanks everybody for watching. This is Fantasy Football Backers. We'll see you next time.